The views on Parents Anonymous podcast are 100% ours, crafted with love, chaos, and whatever was left of our sanity after bedtime.
Welcome, everybody, to Parents Anonymous podcast. My name is Tal,
Hi, my name is Rupali.
and we are parents of a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son.
Yeah, and we are here to talk to you about the first 6 weeks for this episode. And really, we wanted to share with you our most important resource that we found useful for a newborn. So we'll get into all of that in this episode and just wanted to share and thank everyone for the feedback thus far. We will start linking resources down below for all the things that we talk about in some of these episodes. I know that that's been a feedback that we've received. And then also as we go on, there's new topics that we've added to the list. So we'll keep talking about those as you guys find those useful. And really, we want to, in all of these episodes and through this podcast, we want to not only heal ourselves from some of the things that we've gone through as parents thus far, but also create a community where we're sharing resources and we're really talking about things that can sometimes be difficult or challenging that we don't talk about enough. So with that, shall we get started?
Yeah, let's get it going.
So today's episode is hands down for both Tal and I, the most important resource that we have used for both our children in their newborn stages. And it is a book called Cherish, the First 6 Weeks. And this book is from Helen Moon. Should we talk about Helen Moon a little bit? Our angel?
Our angel. We consider this book the parenting Bible for us. It's worked for us, and some of the feedback that we got from our family and friends that have delved into the parenthood, we recommended this book right off the bat, and they've come back to us saying, well, like, this has worked. Thank you so much for sharing this. And that's why we consider Helen Moon our angel for our Bible here.
Yeah, and she's actually a celebrity nanny and caretaker for children. And that is, from caring for newborns, she's really created this book that has not only something specific to like how the baby should sleep or how the baby should be fed in the first 6 weeks of their life, but everything from breastfeeding to formula feeding to how many poops and pees should they have, how you're feeling as a mother. Like there's so much in this book and I can't rave about it enough. Yeah. So we wanted to share it with you. And for us, we bought an actual physical copy, as you can see. You can listen to it. I know some people do that. They have the audiobook, but we found it helpful to just flip pages and go back and forth to take pictures of things or take pictures of different schedules or certain weeks that you should be going into and following for each of the weeks. So let's first talk about why is it important to really take that active role of being parents in the first 6 weeks. Why are the first 6 weeks so important?
We've mentioned also that there's a lot of information out there. This worked for us, and this has worked for other family members and friends that have children now for the first 6 weeks especially. So if there's something else that works out there for you, great, let us know as well. We would be happy to share that with our family and friends. But for us, this came in really handy for both our kids and helped us create that good habit structure for both our babies at that time. And not only that, though, giving us structure and knowing what to follow, because those first 6 weeks are very important. And Helen does a fantastic job of breaking down each of those weeks in this book.
We're not sponsored by Helen Moon.
But Helen, if you ever watch this, we really would like to meet you, and thank you so much.
Yeah, for all that you've done in this fragile, vulnerable time for us as a family. And the book's title is called Cherish the First 6 Weeks, a plan that creates calm, confident parents and a happy, secure baby.
Yeah. And Rupali mentioned already, Helen herself. So she is from England. She was a professional nanny there, and she has gone off to work with celebrities in the United States. She's also done I believe her master's or some high level of schooling at UCLA, specializing in childcare. So she is a wealth of knowledge. She also talks about if you have twins. So if you're expecting twins or have twins,
yep,
she'll have stuff for that as well. If you're breastfeeding mom, she'll have information for you. And if you're not a breastfeeding mom and you're doing formula fed, it's all in there. You one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And like Rapali mentioned, we do have family friends that downloaded the audio and listened, but at the end of the day, they ended up finding the e-book as well for them to then see the actual schedule.
Yeah, and as Tals shared, it is really overwhelming in the beginning, and there's so much information out there. So the book starts off by talking about why are the first 6 weeks important, and also some of the ways that you can prepare before the baby arrives. So ideally, what you'd want to do is get this book, when the mom is pregnant and is in the third trimester,
Yeah.
and start having a light read of this book, every evening or whatever works for you. And that was for us, for Tal and I, that was our goal with our daughter. But we had her 2.5 weeks early, so we didn't get a chance to delve into the book. But I think on day 2 or 3, when after we got discharged from the hospital and we came home, we started reading this book, and it was almost like she could read our mind, because the things that she was saying in this book of how the second and third night they're so fussy no matter how much you feed them. And I think that was kind of pretty close to our breaking point on day 3, and when we came home that
Yeah.
night, because our daughter, like, we would try to console her, she just was so fussy that night. And I think Helen alluded to that same exact thing of how the baby's adjusting on that night 3, and what are some things you can do to help console the baby.
Exactly. The first 6 weeks or the month and a half is a very important time because, especially if you're a new parent, you have no idea what's going on. So having her give you that structure and something to follow along, it will help not only you and your partner, but also your baby as well when it comes to feeding schedule, sleeping schedule, what to do for yourself for taking care of yourself as well. And then at the same time, when you're in it, sometimes you have to go back and reread it a few
Yeah.
times till it gets in your head because you're so overwhelmed
Yeah.
with all the new things that a baby brings.
Yeah. And the first 6 weeks, the reason they're so important in a baby's life is because those first 6 weeks, if you as the parent can support that baby in following a schedule for feeding, for sleeping, for creating really good sleep habits for themselves, that is going to be the foundation for you for the rest of, your first little bit, when that baby's still trying to learn how to sleep, if
Yeah.
whether you're doing sleep training or not, and also creating those healthy habits for that baby that carry them through into their adult life.
Exactly. So I didn't realize how important those first steps were. Very crucial, and we're seeing it now. So if you folks that are watching or listening to us and you're thinking like, okay, what was the outcome? And I think giving you the end picture and what the outcome looks like will give you a better understanding of why we've used this book and how important it is to us and the other parents in our lives that have used as well. Is we had both our children actually sleeping mostly through the night without any sort of intervention by us by the 5-month mark. There was no night feeds. She explains all that as well. But as soon as our child was down for their bedtime, let's say around 7 p.m., give or take, we didn't go until it was their wake up time the next morning. And that was by the 5-month mark. And then to this day, both our children, so our daughter, who is over 3 years old now, sleeps in her own room, and she has since she was 4 days old, and she sleeps in the dark and has successful sleep nights. We haven't had to really go in to intervene with anything.
No.
And not only that, though, when it's time for nap, we say, hey, it's time for your nap time. She doesn't fight it, and she'll go and she naps during that time. And that's the outcome that we got. And we're on track with our 1-year-old son as well.
Yeah, and our son is a year old, as you've said. And since the 5-month point, we have not had to help our child go to sleep. No singing lullabies, no rocking, no pacifier, nothing.
And the overall theme of Helen's book is consistency. And it's staying on those consistent practices that she's outlined in the book, which will then help you create those healthy habits for you and your baby and allowing you to live your life. And one of the quotes that resonates with me to this day is you don't go or conform to the child's schedule. The child conforms to your schedule. So again, what was the outcome? Well, not only did 5 months were they sleeping through the night,
Yeah.
but we were able to go out and have a normal life. And at the end of the day, we're, a married couple and we deserve some alone time, some date nights, and having mom assist with being at home. Someone's at home while our children sleep, and we can go out.
Yeah, one of the things that I've never had to worry about anytime we both leave the home is whoever's caring for that child, they don't have to worry about helping that child go to sleep. put on the sleeper. There's the sound machine that we have that is also associates, for our son who's 1 year old now to help fall asleep. So he'll talk for a few minutes. And if he's tired, he actually will fall asleep on his own right away. So with Helen's book, the first 6 weeks, she shares in every single chapter a schedule of how things should go for you. So she talks about week 1, week 2, week 3, what kind of schedule you should be following for your baby. And it even breaks it down, guys. It even breaks it down into playtime, feeding time, tummy time, nap, and then dream feeds. So all of these things, like the way she breaks it down is actually pretty amazing and it's foolproof. So if you can take that active role in following what she's actually saying, you will reap the benefits of it by the end of the 6 weeks. Obviously, there's circumstances for every single child and baby when things are, whether there is complexities with things like colic, things like sleep regression. So all of those things can happen. But to be honest, for us, especially with our son, being the second postpartum period for us. For me, I have nothing but positive things to say about how things went for us. And it's a lot to do with what Helen has done and what we followed in her book.
Exactly. I find that when you're taking care of a child, especially a newborn or a month old or 2 month old, the process of knowing why they're crying is a process of elimination. So Helen allowed there to be consistencies that I could eliminate right away. I know it's not that because she's outlined the feeding schedule. So what's step 2? I can move on to diaper and etc. stuff like that. That allows you as a parent, especially a new parent who doesn't have that expertise, have some sort of basis and that consistency to rely on to better help you be that parent that child needs. And not only that, though, the book, fantastic, but the hard work needs to be put in, right?
Yeah.
And we had to put that hard work in
Yep.
and follow it. When we doubted ourselves or doubted each other, we looked at the book and just remained consistent with that and having that.
Yeah. Yeah. And for us, as Tal said, we did not get upset at each other, through those times that we were tired, exhausted, sleep deprived. We went back to the book and we said, okay, let's reread this chapter on week 3, let's say. Or what does it say for the things you can expect? And at times she even breaks it down into if the baby's having acne. And I think it was week 3. I don't remember exactly which week. But she actually had a whole section on it because the day before we're like, why does our son or our daughter, both of them have acne during week 3? And guess what? It was right in the book. It says during this week, they will develop acne because their skin is adjusting to, eating on the outside world and breastfeeding and all of that. So it's pretty amazing, actually, the things that she can think of that are already in the book.
And I didn't realize that how important this book would still remain when we had our son, our second child.
Yeah.
Because, the first time you go through it, and like Rupali mentioned, we were actually playing catch up because we didn't realize that, okay, our daughter's going to be born 2 weeks early. And Helen mentions it in the book. And she says in there, okay, if you're picking this book up now and you're behind schedule, this is the system in place. And she allows you to catch up and really take all that information and start applying it as soon as you can.
Yeah, really something that saved us. And I think we will, as we said, we'll link it down below. We are not sponsored by Helen. And after you go through the first 6 weeks, when you really get your bearings, you figure out what your routine is, you start figuring out what your baby's like. At the end, she has some information about what you do going forward after the 6th week, which is, again, pretty amazing because it's not that something you just have to use for the first 6 weeks or before, in the 3rd trimester that you start reading, but she has a plan for what you do after the 6th week.
Yeah.
She has a plan for when the child is several, months old. What do we do then? She has information in there about swaddling. How long do I need to swaddle my child? So if you can trust her and all the things that she's said in this book, you will be successful.
And she, just to add to that, like her last chapter is called After 6 Weeks, Setting Up the Rest of Year 1. So right there, she's giving you the tools you need to get you through that first year and help you have those tools in your parent tool belt to allow you to take care of that child. And not only that, though, you come out feeling prepared. I felt confident as a new parent and then a second time parent. So I felt great about that. And I also want to say that there's things that maybe I was like, oh, I don't know, like for first time around, I would adjust a little bit and it didn't work. And I'm like,
Back to the book.
Back to the book. Helen was right. And then second time, I just, fully trusted Helen's word and the book, and it worked out great. And I'm telling you, I know of at least 4 different sets of parents that have used this book and are still using it because they're in these stages, and they've all questioned it as they were new parents. Like, are you sure this is it? We've heard this, or my mom said this, or my in-law said
Yeah.
this. But at the end of the day, they came back to us and were like, yep, it makes sense now.
Yep.
But we're sharing our secret.
And we know people have shared it. We know people have shared it after that too. Like there's ripples effect,
Yes.
which I'm so glad for, because again, we all deserve to have,
Yeah.
have some sanity and some structure. And if that works for you, especially in the first little bit, it's it's priceless. Let's talk about some of the cultural element with this book, because in this book there is things that talk about what to do if your child is crying, what to do in the first little bit if they're learning to fall asleep. What do you do? How do you soothe them? Or when do you leave them alone? When do you use a pacifier? When do you slowly start taking the pacifier away? There's a lot of things in here that for us, in our experience, our parents didn't understand, and therefore were basically trying to teach us to not follow. So let's talk about our experience with that a little bit, because that's, I think, important element, because in our culture, grandparents are very involved with babies, taking care of them, helping raise them, which is great. But I think some of that comes with what their understanding of was when they raised us. So for us, it was learning to navigate that while we are trying to raise our child.
We mentioned in earlier episodes as well, is setting those expectations of what you want as a parent. So at the end of the day, you have to advocate for how you want that parenting to happen. And with our cultural aspects of it, it's hard in the beginning to set those boundaries, expectations with our parents, because they want to help, and we want to welcome that help. But at the end of the day, as new parents, we have certain ways that we want to raise them. It could be simple as diets. You have folks that you want to feed their kids meat, or you want to be vegan or vegetarian. But just as one example, how you want them to sleep. There's all sorts of topics like co-sleeping and should they sleep alone or this. We've actually had a new parent, tell us that their parent was telling them that their child should co-sleep with them all the way up until they're 3, 4 years old. So stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right. How do you manage what you want as a parent, and how do you say it respectfully, nicely, or sometimes do you have to get a little on the other side, maybe a little bit more defensive or blatant to say, hey, no, this is what I want?
Yeah. And it's hard to do that. But again, I think being clear with this is your child in a respectful way and sharing that is really important. And for us, it's quite funny, because for our parents, when they saw us follow all of Helen's, Helen's information and all of her schedule and her guides, initially it was like, what are you guys doing? Anytime that our children, especially the first time, second time, maybe not as much, anytime that our daughter would cry, guess what? She's hungry every single time, day or night. Anytime she would cry, they would say, you need to feed her. She's hungry. She's hungry. That's why she's crying. I don't know why every single time that she would cry, the only thing we associated with that is that she's hungry. When on the other side, we knew that she was gaining weight proportionately, as she should, because she was a smaller baby when she was born. And we knew that if we tried to feed her more, she wouldn't take extra. And even the little bits that we would give her, sometimes it was really hard to feed her in general. So we were already actually quite stressed, because we wanted to make sure that we were feeding her enough. And then on top of that, you have somebody else, right, that is now saying to you, oh, your child's hungry. So it really affects your confidence as a parent. And you have to pause and reflect. And again, you and your partner, if you have a partner with you, you guys are one. So talking about those things is so important, and saying that actually, no, we are doing the right thing. And they're hungry because they want to play, or because they are just fussy right now, or maybe they need to take a burp out, whatever the reason is, just being really clear that, hey, it's not just hunger. And a full 360 after, I think, 4 months old, when our daughter actually did start sleeping through the night, 4.5 months old, she started sleeping through the night with no interventions, no feeds, nothing, for 12 straight hours consistently.
No pacifiers.
Nothing, no going into the room, nothing at all. A sound machine, a dark room, and in her sleeper. That's it, in her sleep sack. it's funny because then the 360, after all of that happened and they could see that the program that we were following was working, our parents were like raving to other people about, look, they have a 4.5, 5 month old who's sleeping through the night and they don't have to go in. They don't have to feed the baby. Even if she's, crying, that she soothes herself and she falls back asleep. It's so funny. You see the same parent that were questioning us in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you guys doing? Make sure that you're, feeding this baby. Make sure the baby doesn't stay hungry. To now saying that, wow, you guys, this program worked and you guys made it happen. And now raving to other people about how we did that. It's actually quite funny,
Yeah.
but it feels good at the same time, right?
And that questioning in the beginning was more so like, why do you guys need a book or why do you guys need to follow something?
Yeah.
We raised you guys. You guys turned out fine. And then the other thing I got called was a Google parent.
Yes.
Like, I guess we can kind of coin that term of a Google parent. And I was like, what does that mean? And when I asked my parents, and I was told, oh, it means that, you look up everything online and find all the information right on Google, and Google's parenting your child. And I wasn't happy with that terminology, but
Yeah.
when I stuck to my guns and I told Rupali, I'm like, yeah, like, I'm going to be very confident in this structure, in this literature here that we have with Cherish the first 6 weeks. And I'm going to trust myself and go with it. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, it was just a full, turn of events. And all of a sudden
Yeah.
now we're being praised to other parents or other family members that, oh, Tyler or Polly, like their kids are so successful in this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does feel good. And because of that, first round with our daughter, the second time, they already knew we were following the program, we were following the schedule, and they would help us aid in that program that, oh, is it her time, or is it his time to sleep? When does he go to sleep? When does he wake up? So that now they know that it works and they know that this helps the child figure out how to sleep themselves and have those good sleep habits, because it really removes any sort of reason that your child is crying. It's not because they're overtired then, right? You're following the schedule, you're following the feed schedule, and you're following the sleep schedule. So if those two things are in line, you know that the child is not tired and you know the child's not hungry, which are two major things why babies, especially in their first year, are, crying, or sometimes they get way too hyper or way too tired, and sometimes they start acting out or not listening and things like that.
No, I learned that too. Like if a child isn't put to sleep at a certain time or they've been awake for so many hours, if you go past that, you go, okay, you know what? They're probably gonna be super tired now. They'll go to sleep. That's not the case. When they're too tired or overtired, they have a hard time falling
Yeah.
asleep and regulating their body too. So we call it the sweet spot. There's a sweet
Yeah.
spot, and with the book itself lays out that schedule. And if you
Yeah.
could follow within, let's say 10, 15, 20 minutes of that schedule, or you make adjustments, life happens, right? Sometimes you're not expecting your schedule to change for that day. You just adapt, right? And know that. So I coined a term with Rapali called hitting the wall.
Yep.
And when a child is hitting the wall, it means that they've passed that point of I should have been asleep, and now you're dealing with deregulating and all that fun stuff that comes with that.
Yeah, and Helen talks about, again, it starts right from the beginning. She talks about how right before it's their time for nap, you'll start to notice signs of them getting tired. They start rubbing their eyes. When they start yawning, that first yawn, you want to catch that and then slowly start doing the same steps that you do to help them fall asleep. In the beginning, you do have to help them, not in a way that you're having to rock them. Like we didn't really have to do that, but sometimes they just need help relaxing a little bit, especially in the beginning. So maybe you hold them until they're quite sleepy, and then slowly you lay them down in their crib. Or sometimes they are actually overall quite good, so then you don't have to do that. You just put them into their crib. You put on their swaddle, which is so important and helps them fall asleep and stay and feel secure. And because of all the things that she said in here, we've been successful time and time again, and we can confidently now give advice to other parents who have newborns of this is what you should do. Even within this week, I think we had a set of parents say that, oh, my baby fights the swaddle so much. Can I stop using it? And we actually, again, as Tal shared earlier, that we tried to do the same thing with our daughter, even though Helen says in there that not to remove the sleep swaddle until they're 4 months old. I think we tried it at the 3-month mark with our daughter, and it didn't work. It only lasted a day or two, and then we had to go back to swaddling again. And yes, sometimes your child will fight that, but again, you have to be the parent, be clear, have that consistency, be confident in what you're following, that you don't have to actually divert from the schedule. And if they're hungry, you feed them at the times that they're supposed to eat. When they need to nap, that's when you put them down for their nap. And all the things that she says in here, you read it and you go back and read it again.
Yeah.
And we found it extremely helpful to do that.
As a new parent, you're already self-doubting yourself so much. So to have something that you can rely on will make you feel better and just be more active and learning those skills. And yeah, your child will be sleeping finally, or eventually you'll be able to graduate from the swaddle to the sleep sack. So you trust that, right? And she's based this all on scientific thing. So for example, I'm just gonna use the swaddle as an example. When we had those new parents reach out to us this week, they asked, "Oh, about can we, stop it early?" Well, no, because there's a thing called a moral reflex a child has, and that's that just
Startle.
startle reflex. When they're sleeping, their body is still learning and there's still neurons firing. Everything is just building, and they'll startle themselves to sleep. So the swaddle helps them stay contained and assisting them in remaining asleep. So if you remove that too early, they're going to be waking up. They don't like to be swaddled. After a few weeks, they're like, no, I don't like this. They're going to fight it.
Yeah.
But like Rupali mentioned, you just got to power through and be that parent.
Yeah. I just randomly opened up a page in the book, and there's so many things in here that, again, in the back of the book, there's an index or a glossary that you can look at. Oh, if I want to know about breastfeeding, these are all the pages that I can refer to and go back and read. I just opened up a random page in the book, and it talks about, one of the sections talks about cord care. So important in the beginning, when your child has that umbilical cord that's been cut and clamped, sorry. It talks about how to exactly care for that cord. There's another thing that talks about the witching hour. All these things you learn about, it's pretty amazing. And the witching hour was a real thing for both our children, especially our daughter. Between 5 and 7, I remember in the beginning, 5 and 7 p.m. In the beginning, I remember those 2 hours, we would just try to hold her. We would try to walk her around. That 30-minute nap that eventually goes away that she would take, it would be a struggle, that nap that eventually would stop. But the witching hour itself, again, in the beginning, anyone that would come and visit around that time to see our daughter, like, why is she crying so much? It's the witching hour. And then we would explain it to others. And again, with newborns that we went to go visit, we already knew that maybe don't go visit between 5 and 7, because it's always a hard time for children, because they're just tired and they just want to get to the night routine and have a good night's rest.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this episode, if you would like to get this book, again, we'll put it in our description where you can find it. It's available on Amazon as well, and we'll put it on our socials as well. You can reach out via Instagram or email at parentsanonymouspodcast@gmail.com, and then on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram as well at Parents Anonymous Podcast. If you're looking at a good gift for someone that's a new parent or becoming a parent,
Yes.
going to a baby shower, I think this is a fantastic gift to get those
Yes,
parents.
100%. Get the book in the book format. That's what I prefer. Have it and provide it, because it has information not only for the baby, but things like doctor's visits, like what should you expect as the mom? What are some things you should eat as a mom? Breastfeeding resources. There is so much within this tiny little book that it is well worth it. And yes, gift not only cute toys and clothes and blankets, but things that are practical that will actually be useful for that parent. And we'll link it down below again for you guys as we've shared. And we'll also link below a couple of other resources that we talked about in previous episodes, such as the Huckleberry app. And I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, and if you have any other feedback, again, we welcome all feedback. We've got some great stuff that's come in that we're going to incorporate into our future episodes, and we've already incorporated in today's episode. But if you have this book or you're just purchasing it and there's a section in here you want to talk about or you have questions about, please hit us in our DMs and we will hopefully, cover that topic. And there's lots to be talked about.
Awesome. And with that, we'll wrap it up, as Tal said, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Thank you.
Bye.